For us all at Serbia. And we hope you are session of our CPD, which actually is going to talk about how to cost our work. Growing up, there was this two words, cost and price. They are very confusing until you grow up before you see the difference between cost and price. On our topic today, by the close of this session of our CPD, you don't need to go to a dictionary to find the difference, because the difference is going to be clear to you. On that note, we start off with this CPD by a prayer from Eric. Please lead us through this, Eric Darko.
We are asking for your grace and mercies to lead us through the resource persons we commit onto thy hands, that kind of knowledge and wisdom which they will exhibit in their deliberations with us. We pray that at the end of the day, we will leave here as better people than we came in, to make the way we cost, the way we do our things, to put it in the better shape, to uplift the image of the profession. We thank you for answered prayer. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Sylvia, Eric, thank you very much for that effective prayer. Now, in situations like this, or occasions like this, we always would like to have somebody in the chair to take us through from the beginning to the end. And on that note, we call in Surveyor Samuel Labidakon to be our chairman for the occasion. So Surveyor Labidakon, please. Ladies and gentlemen, he is our chairman for this occasion. And chairman, the few gentlemen here and a good number of them out there would like to hear your voice on this. That you accept.
Thank you, MC. I accept this chairmanship with a great gratitude because I was once the committee that prepared our scale of peace. And the perception out there is that our services are very expensive, has been very disturbing, and I've been fighting people and trying to let them know that we are rather being cheated by our pricing. So I find it laudable and very appropriate for this CPD to discuss our costing and pricing. We have had occasions where in tendering, we go for tenders and most of our people, we go for tenders and most of our people will quote prices that give the impression to the people, the client, that we are not serious because the disparities are so great. We are all from the same profession, doing the same work, but when we are asked in a tender form to bid, you see the prices being so different. There was an occasion where for the same service, one person quoted 1.6 million and the next person quoted 600 million. There was an occasion even in a systematic titling where somebody quoted 960,000 and somebody quoted 300,000. This doesn't sit well with us. So we find it appropriate to discuss this. So on this occasion, I gladly accept and I'll ask the presenters to give us their best so that all of us will contribute to have a uniform pricing. And the only difference will be maybe plus or minus 5%. And then the winner with technical things will win. Thank you, Mr. MC. I accept this gladly. Thank you.
With round of applause, please. Let's do that for our chairman for the day. We've delayed a little, so we'll run through and actually catch up by the time we gave our members. So on that note, like we said, we are coming to discuss costing. Now, we are doing this CPD in two folds. We are going to do a presentation before we do the panel discussion. So we'll start with the presentation. Each presenter is going to excite us with how we can charge our clients. Of course, that is nobody works without expecting cash. So on that note, we call upon the first presenter, Surveyor Isaac Blebo, to take us through what he has for us. He has so much experience in hydro. So probably somewhere along the line, he might move through a little into how to swim, how to catch fish, and how to sell fish and add it to your money if your money cannot take care of your boys. On that note, yes, sir, Surveyor Isaac Blebs.
Thank you very much, MC. A very good afternoon to our listeners online. My name once again is Surveyor Isaac Blebo, with specialty in hydrography. And so my presentation will be on costing for hydrographic projects or services. Thank you. All right. So like I said, All right. I trust to be able to present within 15 minutes that's the time allotted for each of us. My presentation, like I said earlier, is going to look at costing for hydrographic survey services or projects. Next page, please. This is how my outline of presentation is going to look like. We'll have an introduction, just a brief introduction, definition of what a project is, factors that affect costing, elements of costing for hydrographic survey, sample calculation for a day's work, that if you are given a hydrographic work to do for a day, how you need to calculate for the costing, sample calculation for a hydrographic project, and then sample calculation for equipment cost or costing, and then conclusion. And after that, I think we'll sit as a panel and have our discussion. So let's see what I have in terms of introduction. Next slide, please. A critical component of any project is the cost required to complete the project, and hydrography is no exception to this. There are three basic ways of costing for hydrographic survey services, either by time charter, standard costing, or by cost per nautical mile. If I say time charter, what it means is you are charging the client based on the time input. So you say, well, for every hour, each of the members in the team are going to receive so much for the work. So you are going to charge for your equipment per hour, going to charge everything based on hours. So if at the end of the day you are going to work for 4 hours, your costing is going to be based on 4 hours. If charting per standard costing, what that means is most of these international companies, they've done the work in-house, and so they know how much it costs to conduct a basic bathymetric survey or hydrographic survey. And so once they call you to give them a quotation, they already know how much it costs to conduct such a service. And they have a fixed amount. They tell you, this is how much we are ready to offer for this work. You either take it or leave it. And then the other one is you charge per the nautical mile, that's in terms of area. In my presentation, I will dwell only on the time charter method of costing, even though I'll try to probably do a comparison between the charting per the nautical mile as against the time charge. Next slide. One of our lecturers, project management consultant and a lecturer, he has this definition for a project. He says a project is a collection of activities which is intended to meet an identified need. So you have a need, and then you want to do something to meet that need. It is different from routine business and is limited in time and resources, which has a defined end state, including defined outcomes, benefits, or outputs. That's his definition of what a project is. Or simply put, a project is something we identify as needing to be done, which sits outside our normal activity, which has a clear reason for being done, and which will be completed by reaching a clearly understood goals. The lecturer's name is Monty Mountfount. So every project has its own cost implications. And in this presentation, I will focus on the cost of conducting a hydrographic survey. There are two things that constitute costing, or factors that affect costing. The first one I said is what? The requirement for the survey. And then the second one is the survey specification. Someone may ask, are they not the same? I think one takes its strength from the other. If you know what the survey is required or the end use of the survey, that will tell you the kind of specifications that you need to follow. For instance, for costing for bathymetric survey, if you are going to do a work at the harbor, the requirement for the survey at the harbor is different from a work outside the harbor. And that will tell the kind of specifications that you need to follow and what you are supposed to consider in your costing. And so survey requirements, let's say you are asked or you are going to do a survey and it's for a preliminary survey. You want to locate an area where you are going to borrow material to fill another place or to reclaim a land somewhere. The initial survey that you will need to conduct will not be as accurate as what you will need to do when you are preparing a plan for the actual work. For instance, let's say we want to borrow material from Keta to reclaim a land around Anyami, because that's the area I'm from. You need to do a preliminary survey to know the area that you are selecting as your borrow pit has enough material. But looking at the cost involved in bathymetry, the requirement will be that, okay, you just do the survey with line intervals of, let's say, 100 meters apart for the preliminary survey. Once you've done that and you realize that you have enough material that can help you reclaim the land you want to reclaim at Anyami, then you can now cost or call for a proposal to do the actual survey for you to be able to cost and know how much material you will be able to retrieve from that area. And so the specification for the preliminary survey definitely will be different from the specification for the actual survey. Let's move to the next slide. Elements of costing for hydrographic projects. So if a client asks you, I want you to give me a costing for hydrographic survey, what are the things that you need to consider in your costing? I have as my requirements or the element, the first one to be the vessel requirements. Vessel requirement comes in if you know where the work is and what the work entails, then you should be able to decide the type of vessel that you are going to use for the survey. If I'm using, let's say, the vessel that GPHA used for their survey at the harbor, the cost of that vessel is different from the aluminum boats that I use and around. So that will definitely affect my costing. The equipment requirements. There are some surveys that you are going to do. The client requires you to use a multi-beam. There are others the client requires you to use just side scan sonar, because all they need is they want to have a pictorial view of the riverbed or the seabed. And so you should be able to know what the equipment requirement is to factor that into your costing. And if the need is that you have to combine multi-beam, single beam, and also side scan sonar, that will also add to your cost. Personnel requirements. Depending on the type of survey you are going to do, will also tell us the kind of personnel that is required. If it's a general geophysical survey that you are going to do, that means you need the services of a geologist or a geophysicist. You need the surveyor. You need people who has knowledge in oceanography as well. And so you should know the sort of people that you are bringing on board to conduct the survey, so that that will reflect in your costing. Your work area. Why should the work area be considered when you are costing for an element, for a project? If I'm working at the harbor, my costing for a work around the harbor definitely will be different from my costing outside the harbor, especially if I'm working along the coast, because the condition outside the harbor is quite disturbing and challenging compared to what you have within the harbor as a result of the breakwater. Weather predations, you should also be able to cost that into your costing, because if you are working in an area that almost every 2 hours it is raining, that definitely is going to impact on your work, and you should be able to factor that into your costing. Time requirements, resource allocation, data requirements, deliverables, and then the constraints. If you are working in an area full of fishing nets, definitely is going to impede your speed of work. So you need to factor all those into your costing so that you will not cost for a day's job and then end up spending 3 or 4 days doing the same project. Let's go to the next slide. All right, so sample calculation for a day's work. I have here that the cost of or the rate for a hydrographic surveyor per hour is 350 Ghana cedis. And so if he's working for 8 hours, that will give us 2,800. This is on the low side too, because if I engage my colleagues outside, some takes 80 euros an hour or 1,000 euros a day. But you realize that if you convert this into euro or whatever, it's nowhere near what they charge outside. A geomatic engineer at 180 an hour times the number of hours he's going to work for a day. 2 technicians are 200 an hour. That gives us that amount. And then the boat operator, 90 cedis an hour. And that gives us that rate. And then the cart operator, also his rate. Let's move to the next slide. That's for labor. Plant and pool, the survey vessel, like I said, you need to consider that in your costing. So depending on the type of vessel you are using, let's say I'm using my aluminum boat. So I'm charging 800 a day for the aluminum boat. Premix fuel that I use for my boat, 200 a day. Pickup and truck and fuel, 1,200 a day. Now, survey equipment, echo sounder, I'm charging 3,500 a day. Size scan sonar, 1,200 a day. Sound velocity profiler, 600 a day. Vector sensor GPS or any other GPS you want to use, 600 a day. SAP bottom profiler at 5,500 a day. And then the software and other accessories, that's your laptop, blah, 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 blah. That one also you are costing it for, let's say, 1,500 a day. Next slide. Next slide. So that is it. The labor, the equipment, and then the whatever. Now I have a project that I'm supposed to cost for. The client calls me and say, Blebs, I have a work for you at Adan. The length of the river is 500 or 5,000 meters or 5 kilometers, and the width is about 600 meters. I want you to give me a costing for such a project. How much are you going to charge me for the work? What I need to know is per such a work, my line spacing will be at 25-meter intervals. And then check lines at every 100-meter intervals. So the total number of lines that I need to do, because all those ones will go into my cost. So I need to divide the length of line with the line intervals, which is 25, and that gives me 200 lines. That means for me to be able to do that work, I need to generate about 200 lines at intervals of 25 meters. And then the total number of check lines, the width of the river is 100, and I'm to do that at every 100 meters. That also gives me 206 lines. Let's say my speed of advance, which is the rate at which the boat moves. I'm going to use 2 meters per second for my speed of advance. Now, to know the number of minutes it takes me to finish a line will be the total line, which is 200 lines. The time required to sail one of the main lines will be 600, which is the width of the line per my speed. And that gives me 300 seconds or 5 minutes. It means it will take me 5 minutes to sail each line. And so if I have 200 lines, I just multiply the 200 lines by the number of minutes that it takes me to finish one. And that gives me roughly 1,000 minutes or 16.67 hours. The time required to sail the check lines, which is the length divided by that, and that also gives me 2,500 seconds or 41.67 minutes. And then to know the number of minutes or hours it will take me to sail the check lines will be 6 times the 41.67, which is 250.02 minutes or 4.17 hours. So the total number of hours required for the survey will be for the main line, which is 16.67, and then that of the check lines, which is 4.17, and that gives me 20.84 hours. Next slide. Now you can convert that into number of days. If we know the normal working hours is, let's say, 8 hours, so you divide the 20.84 hours by 8, and that gives you roughly 2 point something. So you make it 3 days, all things being equal. So my cost of survey will be, I know that I'm going to spend 3 days to do that. So my equipment cost will be 22,000. My cost of labor will be the total of whatever I mentioned earlier times the number of days, 21. The cost of plant and pool, that gives me 6,000. If I'm renting accommodation or whatever, I need to include that one. The cost of reporting, I'm saying that it will cost me like 5,000 Ghana cedis to prepare the report. And if there's the need for miscellaneous, I add that. So all that add together will give me 55,280 Ghana cedis, excluding tax, for me to do that work for the client. Thank you. Let's move to the next. How to calculate for equipment. I think there's one of the things that most people find difficult to do. Let's say I bought my equipment at a price of 40,000 euros. And then I know that every year I use the equipment 20 times. And per my rate of recovery, I want to be able to replace that equipment within 5 years. So what I need to do to be able to charge or cost for my equipment is to divide the total number of years I want to use the equipment by the cost of the equipment, and that gives me 8,000 euros a year. If I want to know how much I should cost the equipment per day, then I need to divide the number of the amount per year over the total number of days that I will use it in a year. And that is 8,000 divided by 20, and that gives me 400 euros per day. And that gives me, or that is the reason why some of the companies charge high, others charge low in terms of equipment. It is based on their rates at which they want to recover the equipment. That gives the rate at which they charge the equipment. I think that's about the last one.
Yeah, your time is up.
Yes.
Okay, finish up.
Yeah. So I think that's the little I have to present in terms of costing for hydrographic service. Thank you.
A round of applause for our waterman. And we have another section where he's going to be part of the panel to take questions. But then, once it's fresh on our minds now, I ask that if anybody online here has one or two questions to give, ask, please, you can go ahead and ask your questions. Online, if you are online and you want to ask some questions, you can quickly do that. Maybe just one or two questions. One or two questions for us to get. Any question online?
You go next,
So,
right?
good. Yeah, Chairman.
No, I don't have the pen.
Chairman want to know.
What? Have you given your pen?
Yeah, Chairman want to know why the charges of the hydrographer and the geodetic engineer are so wide. Because before you become a hydrographer, you are a geodetic engineer. So why that gap? Yes, you go ahead.
This one, where are you?
Thank you very much. I think
It's not working.
a specialty, and just as we have in our schedule of fees, where your years of experience gives you more money than those who are fresh from school. That is the reason behind the difference in charges as well.
Okay.
Thank you.
But leave that.
Thank you very much, Sylvia Bleb. Sylvia Bleb has explained that whatever it is, before you become a hydrographer, you're a geodetic man. So if you want to enjoy the big money, as Chairman wants to do, please add something small to the geodetic. Thank you very much. Bless. Any more questions online or in-house? Yes, Eric. Eric. Eric, come. You come. Take a mic and ask your question. Please go ahead.
All right, so we are blessed. The elements of costing. So the vessel requirements. In the cost, people don't normally, the clients, me, for instance, when somebody is telling me to give a cost for demarcating a boundary, I give options based on the person's strength financially. I say, okay, if I use handheld GPS, you are going to get an accuracy of 6 meters. If I'm using a GPS, RTK, you are going to get an accuracy of 2 centimeters. So based on the accuracy the person wants, maybe the person, where it's a farmland, you say, oh, I don't need that kind of 2 centimeters. So you just use the handheld. So based on the accuracy, and then I do my charge. So I just want to know, how relevant is it? If you are using a steel boat or a rubber boat or a metal boat, the most important thing is with the accuracy. So if you are able to satisfy the client, the accuracy the client wants, whether steel or metal or whatever, I don't think that is it relevant, the kind of vessel you use, so that you consider it in the costing? Please elaborate on that.
Yes, the type of vessel you use is very relevant in our work. It's not, for instance, you can't use that aluminum boat when you are working along the coast. One, you are putting your life at risk, your equipment at risk, and any other thing can happen. So if you are working at high seas, the vessel you require to use at high seas is different from when you are working on inland waters. That is the reason why the vessel requirement is very necessary. You should know where you are doing the work, where the work is required at. There are some vessels, they will not allow you to bring them at the harbor to come and use there. They either give you their own vessels to use, or they give you a type of vessel that is required to work within the harbor. So it is very necessary. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Surveyor Blebs. At this juncture, we are going to call the second presenter. Oh, sorry, there's one question.
So there are some few questions online. Yes. Does this cost apply to both offshore and inland waters? That's the first one. Then say, your labor cost analysis. I saw that technician was taking more than the geometric engineer. Please, why? Then is for 2 persons, someone answered, and does this cost involve the risks of hydrographic surveying?
Thank you for the questions. If the rate of a technician, if you look at the slide, it is 2. So what it means is each of them is taking 100 and not each taking 200. The other one is the risk. The costing is different. If, like I said, you need to consider the environment at which you are working. If you are working along the coast, the risk involved there is far higher than working on the inland waters. And so the costing definitely will vary. That's why I was a bit specific on the Adan lagoon or whatever. Yeah. So the costing for works on the coast or the sea is quite different from the costing at that because of the risk involved. You know the type of work you do. You can buy that equipment and then on one project, you end up damaging it. And so it's a risk you are taking. And there should be a way of recouping that risk as well. You can't put all on one client. So you spread it over a period. If it works, fine. If it exceeds also, it is to your credit. Thank you.
Yeah, colleagues online, you have another chance to ask him questions when he sits among the panel for our panel discussion. Now, at this juncture, I would like to invite the second presenter, who is in the name of Michael Dodo. He's also experienced engineering survey, land survey, and what is more, dispute survey. I met him one at the court with him and myself one day. So he's here to give us more experience, costing everything. I'm hopeful that there will be a dispute cost here. Thank you very much. And Michael, you are welcome to our session for the day.
Thank you, Mr. MC. Ghana Institution of Surveyors, costing for survey project services. So I would say that ever since we left school or we graduated, surveying has gone through, thank you. Would say surveying has gone through a lot of phases. At least my year group, I would say we were kind of fortunate in the sense that we were still in the analog era, just transiting into the digital space. So at least we had the benefit of going through the rudiments of survey and all that. So yes, so we started from caning and taking angles. Then came total stations that combined. That gave us a combination of our measurements and distances and angles to give us coordinates. So that was a very big leap. Then the next phase we got into was GPS, which kind of transformed the way we do survey. And I would dare say that at the time that total station came in, we thought that was the ultimate. Then GPS came in, we also thought that was the ultimate. Then came a time when they said, okay, now it's not even necessary for you to go and walk the ground. Just be somewhere and send somebody to take images for you, which would give you the opportunity to get your whatever survey data you need to deal with. Now, so we are in the phase of drone survey or aerial mapping using micro aircrafts, which we are calling drones. I am sure a lot of us who may have procured drones when drones became the in thing, I'm sure you sit back and ask yourself that, oh, this thing, I should have taken my time to figure out exactly what I needed the drone to do before buying it. Because some of us may have bought it and it's lying there and you are not deriving the maximum benefits out of it. So it is important that, just like the earlier speaker said, for whatever job or project you need to embark on, it is very important that the equipment is fit for purpose to enable you achieve the outcome of whatever project you intend to roll out. So we'd go straight to the use of drone for mapping purposes. Now, next slide. So we would say that for any project that involves the use of drones, it is very, very important that you evaluate exactly what the project's outcomes are to ensure that you select whatever drone that is fit for purpose. You would agree with me that if you want a drone that could fly and take pictures, which you can still control and guide to take images for it to generate some semblance of an orthophoto or a plan, you could get a drone as basic as maybe $1,000. Some are way less than that. All the way up to drones costing over 50,000 Ghana cedis. Sorry, 50,000 US dollars. So like I said, for you to be able to evaluate the outcome of the project, which will determine what type of equipment you use, the equipment or the UAV for that matter is very, very, very important. Just like the earlier speaker said, the cost of equipment or whatever investment you made into that equipment would definitely have to be recouped. Now, as far as getting drones that are fit for purpose, we could look at drones that are fixed wing or copters, drones that have high endurance, have high payload limits, drones that gives you the opportunity to control them from a very far distance, as well as drones that have very high camera specifications, or if you want to equip it with a LiDAR, you have the option to do that. So it means that the quality of drone that you are going to deploy on a particular project has an input into the costs of the survey. Okay. So, like I said, drone survey or use of drones for surveying is still emerging. We are still in the teething phase of it. Our regulators are also putting things together. By our regulators, I mean the Survey and Mapping Division, is work in progress, trying to figure out and kind of standardize the operations, survey applications with the use of drone. Now, we could have projects which are kind of localized and projects which kind of are wide area surveys. So to enable us look at the various ways that drones can be deployed, would go to the details of, let's look at the localized area operation. Now, for localized area applications, as far as the use of drones are concerned, we can talk about monitoring of physical developments. In that, I think these days the assemblies kind of fly drones to actually capture the status of development with time, so that at the end of the day, they kind of build a database that helps them monitor. By this time, this is what the stage of development was. The next time of flight gives them another data set. So that's one area in which we deploy drones. Then in recent times, a lot of land disputes that we see in our courts, which requires the use of composite plans. in recent times, there's been the need, sometimes there's a request for auto photos of the site that gives kind of a visual impression of what the issues are. So that is one other area in which drones are being deployed. Then in recent times, just to make some of our clients happy, when you have maybe something very little to do as far as a very small, limited area where you need to do a detailed survey or topographic survey, just to give that kind of this thing, you just throw in an auto photo of the place just to give whatever you've done some flesh to make your client happy. We do that every now and then. And so those are the localized areas where drone applications are found. Then the reason why I'm going through this is that sometimes, because we as surveyors, we kind of have an added advantage to any other person who just can fly an equipment, okay? We have all these photographers flying drones all over the place. However, we are able to take those images and relate them to space. We can give them coordinates and say, yes, this image, this is where it is. So some of our colleagues are tending to find some kind of ancillary works which may not be directly linked to production of maps, but just to provide some information with regard to to provide geo information. Let me put it that way. What happened at this place at this particular time, we are better placed to do that. So most of our colleagues have kind of moved on from just producing maps with the use of drones to providing other services because of our added advantage. So some of the other areas where I know some of my colleagues are working are doing things, damage service after disasters, after floods, after fire. We go in to fly images and we're able to geo-reference whatever images we capture properly to tell the story as it is. Mining concessions and oil and gas fields, where some of our colleagues are given the task of kind of flying some missions to capture information along perimeter fencing in secured areas, which are very vast. Some of them too are doing lines, are flying the transmission lines, some surveillance and all that kind of thing. So we would say that these are the areas where we would say we can deploy drones. Okay, so let's go to cost of survey. Now, how do we cost surveys that has to do with drone applications? You would agree with me that even for our traditional surveys, we are still struggling to kind of quote reasonably, because one, the client has who you are dealing with has an influence on whatever you are going to charge, whether it's a form of a tender, whether it's sole sourcing and all that. So even with our traditional service, it's still a gray area as far as costing is concerned. Like the chairman said, we have very varying costs that we submit when it comes to tenders. Now, so to kind of harmonize costing, it is important that certain ingredients are considered by we as professionals to kind of standardize what exactly we are costing for. Now, so I've just attempted to see if I could put those things together, for which if we adhere to, I believe that would end up eliminating the very vast discrepancies that we see in our tenders. Now, so The elements that would constitute the build up to our survey costs for drone survey, let's say, if you like, it's important to evaluate the task and determine all the various activities required to achieve the expected outcome. There's the need to also assess the number and caliber of personnel required to successfully execute the task. Now, it is also important to determine and identify all the reimbursable items and logistics that will be required for project execution, i.e. equipment, vehicle, labor, office, support, and all that. If we are able to come out with these items, which everybody has, at the end of the day, it is not like somebody is using something different to come up with a very huge cost. Somebody is considering something which may not be very relevant. He thinks it's not relevant. And at the end of the day, he also comes up with some cost which is so low. So we would say, as far as drone survey is concerned, or surveying using drone application is concerned, I would entreat that since it's still work in progress, we are also still trying to find our level as far as drone costing for drone works are concerned, or area mapping are concerned using the drones. I think it is important that we kind of allow the GHIS approved piece to kind of guide us. At least if we begin from there, then we can see how best we can tweak it here and there too. But at least I think that since it's a gray area, if we can restrict ourselves to this, what GHIS has approved as far as personnel is concerned, because when you are going out there, personnel, equipment, logistics, and others. So this is the man-month rate, which has been captured in the approved scale of fees for the Ghana Institution of Surveyors, which I think should be our guide in getting these, putting costs to personnel. Now, beyond these, there's all, I think GHIS has also made provision for man-month if it has to do with traveling out, because a number of our colleagues are going into the West African sub-region to have surveys done. So these could also be a guide. Now, apart from that, as far as aerial surveys are concerned, before you go out there to fly your equipment, you actually need to establish GCBs, which is more of groundwork. And these have also been captured in the Ghana Institution of Surveyors approved scale of fees, which basically has to do with establishment of ground control points. So these are what GHIS has captured in there. Now, as far as other elements are concerned, I think that when the last speaker was talking, there was an issue about why do you have to use this boat? Why do you have to use this particular equipment and all that? So to create that kind of harmony, I think that the way to go would be to kind of adopt some rates that have been specified. There are rates in there for labor, there are rates in there for principal geodetic engineers, consultants, and what have you, like we saw earlier on. So once those things, those rates have been captured in the approved scale of fees, I think if we tap into it and use those as guiding principles, it can kind of converge the kind of fees we see when it comes to these tenders and all that. Now, like I said earlier on, it is important to determine all the various activities that you'd need to undertake to enable you attain your cost buildup. So I just put a few things here just to give you that perspective. So we're looking at costing for deck study, which would include flight planning and all that. This would have to be done by personnel, geodetic engineer, whatever. Then you'd spend some time also to go in there to do your recce and engage community. You know, when you are using the UAV, if you are in a flight zone, you need to engage the aviation authorities for them to give you clearance. If they're in a community, you need to sensitize them. All those things take time and cost money to do. You put all those things down. You determine how much, what duration you need for mobilization, how long it will take you to establish your GCPs and how many of them. Then you finally go out there and carry out your flight operations, after which you process your data. So all these things, it's important that you assign timelines to them. Oh, sorry, I think I was ahead of you. Sorry. So these are the items as captured here. So you would want to look at these things and determine how long it will take you to accomplish each of these things, because each of them would have to go with the resources. Now, once that is done, you would now go back to assign the various personnel that you need to kind of do the execution. I think for we as surveyors, I think when it comes to pricing and things, I think our friends, our civil engineering friends do a little better than us when it comes to putting these kind of costs together. We kind of just give a blanket fee that, okay, 1,000 acres, this is how much it will cost, and take it or leave it. Whereas others would kind of tell you how many people are going to do it, how long it is going to take, the vehicle requirements, drivers, labor, and all that. So if we are able to put these things together, I think it will kind of converge the way our cost build-up goes, rather than just giving a blanket for this 1,000 acres, this is how much I'll charge. The man tells you reduce it. You don't even have any basis of kind of justifying what you are charging. But if you put these things together, I'm using this vehicle, these are the laborers, I'm using this equipment, I'm using cost so much and all that, at least it gives us that kind of leverage to be able to push for, or better still defend our quotes. Yes. So now we go to, as part of the cost build-up, there's miscellaneous expenses, which includes office, communication costs, secretarial service, production of reports. These reports that we print, it's money. You have to cost for it. So all these things, you'd have to kind of figure out how many times you'd have to submit reports and all that. Then there are certain costs that sometimes the client will say he'll give you vehicles, you do this, you do that. Some of them are kind of reimbursable. So you kind of have to identify all those costs that are kind of that would have to be reimbursed. Some of the contracts, they would ask you to kind of provide indemnity insurance, professional insurance, indemnity. So those ones, you'd also have to know how much it's going to cost you. You factor all those things inside. Then the next thing is to have a breakdown of all the various items. So at the end of the day, you have a cost for all your key staff. You put them, if there are 2 people or 2 persons, for how many days or months they are going to work, you indicate it for all your personnel. Then at the end of the day, all these things that I've mentioned, you put all of them together. So that would come, so at the end of the day, all the remuneration, which is the cost for each personnel, would come together. All the reimbursables, which includes insurance and all those things, comes in. Then the miscellaneous expenses as well. So once you put all these things together, at the end of the day, you will be able to kind of build a summary cost for all that you have accomplished. So basically, all that I would want to say is that since this drone application survey is a gray area, and we are still trying to find our feet around it. As much as possible, once GHIS has given us some guidelines as to pricing, if we can tweak those prices to fit into the various activities that has to do with this, any area mapping projects, I think it would go a long way to help us. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Surveyor Michael Dodo, for making us know that as a surveyor, we need to be courageous. We need to have confidence in ourselves to charge. Because we don't have confidence in ourselves, sometimes we do try macquarie sort of charging. On this note, we call upon our third presenter to take us through yes, but we would like to take all, as this one can go straight, we'll call upon our third presenter in the name of Surveyor Chairman Akwa, JC Akwa.
Good afternoon, colleagues. First, I want to apologize for my late coming. This one, I had to go to court. So I spent the morning at the court. That is why. This afternoon, we've met to discuss very important aspect of our work. That is costing for Soviet jobs. I'll give general information on it, and then I'll skew it to cadastral surveying. We all know cadastral survey is the work of the director of surveys, and it will continue to be so. And it has been mainly been a property survey for individuals or state-acquired lands for various uses. And they're all there, schools, farms, rails, and all that are there. Then okay. Because I want so these are properties that we are supposed to survey for registration purposes. Now, we all know that the director of surveys has his own schedule of fees, and that schedule of fees is approved by cabinet. And the cost was mainly based on materials for the work, transportation, and per diem of staff on the job. Next slide. When did professional fees come up? We all know Ghana Institution of Surveyors is a registered member of the Professional Bodies Association. So in effect, all members are automatic members. Now, the government of Ghana recognizes the professional bodies in this country and their activities. Negotiations for better remuneration and better condition of service for its members are some of the benefits which we are enjoying. In the late 1980s, professional bodies started demanding professional allowances aside their monthly salaries. Now, all professional members on government payroll were given such allowances. Now, members of the Ghana Institution of Surveyors in the Land Surveying Division who were undertaking projects for government saw the need to come out with another schedule of fees, which included professional allowances. Later, it was named Professional Scale of Fees. Now, SMD schedule of fees is always lower than the professional schedule of fees. The reasons being it's owned by government, they are using government vehicle to the site, and staff on project are on government payroll and other factors. Now, cadastral surveying, also known as legal survey of property boundary. Physical measurements of the boundaries are very crucial. What is captured and written on the cadastral plan should be the same on the ground between boundary posts. Recently, I sent my staff to go and do a small survey. They were using some pillars as the measurement. And then from the first pillar to the third pillar, I think it was 69. But after the data was processed, it was 71. It was 70. I should have checked this, but I didn't. We sent it to the client. So on the day they were going to put their wall, they said, oh, the distance is 71. I said, I know they measured 69. We measured, it was 71 and not 69. So these are some of the things that when we are doing property survey, we should look at. You use your GPS to survey, but use tape to also measure for cross-checking. It's very, very important. Because when something happens, you go to court, they ask you, what was the distance? If it is 101, say 101. You can't say about. They don't entertain about. So please take note of this. So the following are the fees for cadastral survey. First is the cost of material. Of late, our young men, they are refusing to plant pillars, which is a very dangerous move we are doing or we are making. Pillars are supposed to be the boundary point. So if you don't put the pillars, how do you assume the client can identify the point? So pillaring is one of the materials that is one of the assignments for doing the cadastral work. We need cement and sand, water, and tools like trowel. Then we know previously we used to have inscription stamps. It's not very scarce. So people are now using stick or nail to write the inscriptions on the pillar. And then at times you need mold. Either you do the molding in the at site, or you do as you call institute. You mix and then you put the mold and then you fill it. And then apart from the materials, we also have transportation. Hiring vehicle to site and back, paying for cadastral number, presenting or sending completed files to CSAU, and going back to collect. These are all under transportation. And then the staff, those who go to the field. Then computation of data and quality control at the back office. And then plotting and printing. And then we have the office overhead. Office equipment, we all know, computers, printers, and all those things. And then stationery, papers that you use to do your printing, and then correspondence, and then utility bills. Then I think the last one is field equipment. A private man who does surveying knows that about total station or GNSS instrument, the next 5 years, I have to replace them. So in charging, you should look at it. That is the amortization of total station or GNSS. And then other conditions that can influence the charges are the vegetation of the area of survey, either forest or savanna or open land. And then the physical nature of the land, either it's hilly maintenance or undulating. So in fixing the charge, we look at all these 6 items. Now, current schedule of fees was published in 2019. The scale of fees for all the 3 divisions are published together in one booklet for the first time in 2019 at a cost of 200 Ghana cedis only. Anytime government increases minimum wage, and we are not ready to prepare another schedule, this is the way we go about it. So the formula is there. So the new fee will be the old fee multiplied by 100 plus 50% of the increase in minimum wage over 100. So if you put in the unknown the values, then you get the new fee. And we'll use that till the next 5 years when we will prepare another schedule of fees. Now, as I said, this is to adjust fees until the new schedule of fees are drawn up. Now, on page 34 of the current scale of fees, the cost of cadastral survey can be found there. If you have your copy here, have a look, it's there. Now, the only ingredient missing in that is that from 70 acres upwards, the fees should be based on the perimeter charge. That is at 8,000 Ghana cedis per kilometer. And this includes clearing, pillaring, traversing, transportation, data processing, plotting, printing, then payment for cadastral number and approval fee are all inclusive. But as the last speaker said, we should itemize them so that they will know that this is for that and that is for that. Next slide. Now, this is a typical itemized bill for the minimum cost of one plot, which is 1,100 in our schedule of fees. And this is the breakdown. Transportation will cost 100 Ghana cedis, which is 9.1% of the total. Then planting of 5 pillars costs 100, that's the percentage. Then labor of survey team, 450, that is 40.9. And this could be higher depending on the vegetation. And then office staff, that's the back office. Their contribution to this is 75, it will cost 75 cedis. And then statutory fees, that is the cadastral fee, and then the approval fee. And then amortization, we put 3.82%, that is 42. And then office overheads, 60 cedis, that is 5.45%. And the profit that will be left will be 200. And this 200 is not going to the pocket of the surveyor. Because here we've not added income tax. So part will go and pay for income tax, and some will go and pay for social security for your staff. So, in a nutshell, this is cadastral survey, typical cadastral survey for one plot. If you look at the schedule of fees, it's graduated from 0.4 to 0.25 of an acre, and then it goes on and on. But something that I want to draw attention to is that the more the acreage, then the charges start reducing. It is not that one plot is 1,100, so 2 plots should be 2,200. No. When you look at the scale, that's how it has been done. So on that note, I'll bring my contribution to an end as I wait for questions.
Thank you very much for an interesting presentation of costing. It is so clear that listening to the first speaker who gave us some costing on hydro, the second one gave us costing on drones, the third presenter who just finished with us also gave us the cost on cadastral. If you're a surveyor, you know that one needs to top this thing up for us to get a complete costing. Now, our next presenter is going to try to combine everything, but then he will give it another name, engineering survey. So our fourth presenter, who is not the least, is going to give us the costing for doing engineering surveying. We know there are few people with questions. If you have one question here, so Mr. Boating,
Yeah,
we are trying to
thank
get
you.
your thing on. Is it clear?
Yeah, you can open it at the bottom. Left, right, bottom.
Call it out there, please.
Zoom.
We are trying to make sure
Zoom
you
it at the
see
right
it
bottom.
clear. Although we are going to try very hard to let you have all copies of the presentations.
Okay. Yeah.
Yes. So, Mr. Boatin, the floor is yours now.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Surveyor, President John Amaglu was supposed to have made some presentation, but I had to stand in and present something on that behalf. And I must say that as surveyors, or growing up, I've come to realize that one of the main challenges of surveyors is getting their cost right. And as the last speaker said, the last but one, and then the first speaker, we have had this challenge all over the years, and we think that this particular topic is critical for us. And so we need to really have a very good conversation about it, and then be able to agree on a couple of figures, as the last but one speaker said. And I'm very happy the last speaker did tell us how the schedule of fees and other things came by, and even the formula for calculating the schedule of fees. Basically, I'm not going to present anything extraordinary, but I'm going to just talk about a typical example of trying to give a survey quote. And we have been involved in some other projects, and we did organize some Excel sheets that helps us in trying to get this quoting in place. Can you go to the last tab? No, the last one, miscellaneous. Okay, that's the miscellaneous. So go to the next one. Good. And then that's reimbursable. Is that reimbursable? Good. Go to the next one. And then there's a remuneration. Good. And then go to the next one. Per activity. Okay, so go to the last one, summary. Okay, so you reckon that one of the challenges we have had is that getting a survey activity or project broken down in such a way that you could determine the remuneration for the survey staff, the key staff, the assistants, the laborers, the back office, and what have you, has always been an issue. And like the last speaker said, we should be able to itemize all these things very clearly. And more especially our counterparts who are in the other fields, they do that very often. And when they call the surveyors are not able to give a detailed breakdown of the costing. And I think it is time as surveyors, we should be able to do this. And by the CPD leaders, I think having a CPD on a project, some aspect of project management is also very necessary, because then we talk about project activity and cost breakdown. Then we can detail every activity and the cost. Good. So I have here the summary. Don't forget about the figures. We are trying to look at what it is to put up a quote. And so I have the summary like I went through, and then go to the next tab. So that is where you have this is breakdown per price. So you have remuneration, reimbursables, and miscellaneous. Now, most international projects come in this form. And so as surveyors, we need to position ourselves in a way that when we are competing, we should be able to tell what are the professional fees or the remunerations that everybody is going to be paid out of the project. And then the kind of things that we are going to use for the project, for which, if we don't use them, we don't charge the client for. Most often than not, we give lump sum quotes and it doesn't work out. And it becomes very difficult for you to kind of explain to any international project how to manage costs. And then we have the last one, that is miscellaneous. So can we look at the breakdown of the remuneration? Okay, so taking a typical project, a typical project, you may have the team leader, you may have the team, if the project is a survey project, obviously then the team leader is the chief surveyor or the licensed surveyor or whoever it is. So he takes the team leader, and then you probably might have a deputy team leader, and then maybe a coordinator, a GIS person, and what, because surveying has now moved from geodetic or whatever you call it to geoinformatics. And so for any project that you envisage that collecting information is critical, then you add a GIS. And then you look at the local staff where you have the geodetic engineer, the technician, the laborers. These are itemized staff lists that you can break down and get figures for. And more importantly, looking at the schedule of fees, we can have these values. In fact, I have put up some questions that I may be asking the panelists. What the various status of surveyors we have, whether in our survey profession, we have the highest is the principal or what, so that we are very clear and we should be able to categorize ourselves as to who is a principal surveyor, who is a senior principal surveyor, and that kind of a thing. And so that I have for the reimbursables. Can we go to, no, that's the remuneration. Can we go to reimbursables? Good. So here you have reimbursables. And so you talk about international flights. So assuming you are competing on any international project and you have partners flying in and whatnot, or you yourself, you are flying in and out, then you put a quote. What it means is that if you don't fly, you don't charge that. Or if you don't fly in a project, that charge will not be paid. That is what it means. And these are things we should know. If you say you are going to use a total station and you quote for the total station, and during the course of the project, you don't use the total station, you don't get paid for it because that is reimbursables. And so you have traveling expenses, subsistence, allowance, technician, laborer, whatever. You know, when it comes to subsistence, like you go out there, food and all. So those ones, whatever. And then local transport, insurance. I think the last but one speaker mentioned insurance. It is very critical that as surveyors, anytime we are competing on any project, these are some of the details that are critical. The insurance that you go in for. it has to be borne by the client. And so you charge it to the project. And then office, can you go down, please? Can you go down? Yeah. Good. So you have office rent, accommodation. I think the last speaker mentioned all the ingredients that goes into managing an office, and that is critical also. So let's finally go to the, I think miscellaneous. The last one is miscellaneous. Good. And so under miscellaneous, you have communication, drafting of reports, equipment, computers, survey equipment, vehicles, post-processing applications, materials, molding of pillars, erection, and all those stuff. All those ones go to miscellaneous. And so even as you are able to identify all the various ingredients, if you couple it up, then you can get your summary. Honestly, this Excel sheet you have, if you change the figures here, it reflects in the summary. I think the last time we had a similar conversation, I particularly mentioned that if the division can put up something like this for members to use. So the IT people, this is a challenge to us. Let us have some application like this that we can always plug in figures and get summary of projects that we are competing for. The war is not between us, it's not between surveyors. The war is between us and the other people in the other world. And that is where we need to prove ourselves. I get very sad when I see a billboard, the QS, the civil engineer, and the surveyor is nowhere to find. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kingsley Boateng, for that. The CPD has taken another a step forward. All the 4 presentations that we have listened to today, this is what we want to do. We are forming a small committee to bring all the 4 presentations together as one document. Because when you carefully go through what was presented to us, you realize that they are actually speaking same language, but different approach to each of the specific areas. Because we talk about hydro, drones, cadastral, then finally we came to engineering survey. Now, CPD, on behalf of the chairman, Blebs, we have come out with 4 persons to form a committee, come together and bring us one document out of these 4 presentations. They are Surveyor Kingsley Boateng, Surveyor Michael Dodo, Surveyor Alex Aite, and Surveyor Frederick Bediakun. These 4 surveyors, I know some of them are listening to us through, they are listening to by virtual. We have 2 of them here. Now, these 4, I don't know how you are going to meet, but you do your arrangements, meet, and give us the full document. As you know already, CPD is closing its books. Chairman has given us the time to close our books early. We are in November, December, we are closing our books. So please, we think by 15th December or latest by 20th December, if you can come together, give us all these 4 documents as one document so we can share to our members. Thank you very much. This is just an information, and we are moving to the next segment of our program. Yes, sir.
Apart from the 4 names you mentioned, that they should put the 4 presentation together. also want the CPD committee to put all what we've done this year together. Thank you.
Okay. Yes, sir. Chairman has added more load to our loads. He said whatever we've done as CPD for the whole year, we should also make it a document and send it to members. We are going to do that. We promise you, as we stand here, we promise you. My chairman is here, so I don't fear. We promise you we are going to do that. We are going to let you have everything we've done throughout the year, from the beginning up to this time. We are going to share with members. Then, as for this one, is Chairman Blebu's baby. So please. But until then, before we move to the next segment, I think there are some small things they are sharing out there. We'll just take a small bite of it, then we'll move to the. Please bear with us. I know we are going to take a little bit of your time. Yes, but we hope we'll be able to get things done. All right. Yeah, question, yes. Questions online. Okay, yes, sir. Presented, please listen. I'm here as a moderator, so most of the questions I won't be able to answer. Sorry.
Thank you. I did not see the cost for regional numbers and also a cost for the survey LISAG policy fee on the cost. I don't know whether, since it's a cadastral, it is not part of it. So I wanted him to be clear whether the 1,001 I've seen there, all those costs are inclusive. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah. I know. I think you saw statutory fees. So that covers the cadastral fee, which is 16 cedis, and then the approval, the minimum being 57. If you add them together, you get what I put there.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Sabia Ukuku also have.
I saw that he said profit of 200.
Sorry?
The last item was profit. I don't think profit should come there. Should rather include, should be something like insurance and other things. And then insurance and other things should appear, not profit.
Please, I think, yeah.
Okay, what I'm saying is that it should be, okay. What I'm saying is that the profit should not be there. It should be it should comprise insurance and other items that has not been added. And then after that, he said, before profit comes. Okay.
Okay.
Maybe you didn't hear what the last this thing I added. I said, even though it's profit, it's not coming to the surveyor because income tax, the social security has to be taken care of.
Okay. I think we also have, yes, we also have online some few questions. So we are just.
Is he MC?
No, we are going to take maybe 2 questions from here. Then we go to maybe the panel discussion will answer some of the questions. Yeah. So. Right. Good afternoon again to the second segment, and on that we have a panel discussion which actually Sylvia Kingsley is the moderator for the panel discussion, and therefore he has to mention his panelists for us to set the ball rolling.
Thank you, Mr. MC. I think the presenters are the panel members. So please, can we call the presenters to come up and then we can have some discussion as per the schedule. Yeah, I think we've had a good presentation, and our panelists are seated. With me on my left, I have Sevilla Dodo. I think we all know Sevilla Dodo. Sevilla Dodo has been with us all this while. He has had an in-depth knowledge in surveying, and he made some presentation on drone costing. We also have Sevilla Chair Akwa, who has also been with us. He has had an extensive work, and I must say it's over 30, 40 years.
Over 40.
30 years.
Over 40.
Over 40 years experience doing surveying. It means when he started surveying, some of us hadn't even dreamt going to the university. And then we have our able CPD chair, Sevilla Blebo, who has also had an in-depth knowledge in hydro and presented something on hydro survey. And parents, you are welcome.
Thank you.
Good. So what we're going to do basically is to discuss some of the things that are critical to us. And I'm happy during the presentation, certain questions I even have in mind, I came to light. Because there was this question I kept wondering whether we have a schedule for scale of fees, and the presenter did mention that. But the question I will ask for that information is, how frequent is it supposed to be updated? Xavier, can you please detail us with that?
Yeah, usually it's 5-year cycle. Usually it's 5 years. After every 5 years, we'll look at it.
Oh, 5 years. So what it means is that if petrol gets increased 10 times, are we going to still maintain the 5 years, or is dependent on something? Or is dependent on labor, how labor gets fixed up or something? Is that it?
Yeah. As I said, if there is a change of price of fuel, that one it's not factored in the formula I gave. But if there is an increase in minimum wage, then we'll use that one to cushion us a little. So the next schedule of fees is prepared.
Okay, but what I'll follow up is that how different is that? You mentioned that the scale of fees for the Lands Commission and of course survey and mapping is lower, but you never
displayed some of those figures out there. And some of us, we've not seen even the schedule of fees. Do they really exist?
Yes, they exist.
And when do you apply Lands Commission scale of fees, and when do you apply GHIS scale of fees?
You know, SMD gives out contracts, and they use that scale of fees to pay the contractor. So that's it.
Oh, so what it means is if SMD does or Lands Commission gives out a project, then it uses it. But does it mean when government also gives projects, you are supposed to use that scale of fees?
If that project is not coming through SMD, you can use your professional fee. But if it's coming through SMD, SMD will insist that they'll pay you according to their schedule of fees.
Well, but I thought that you mentioned the scale of fees is fixed per certain parameters. So how come it is? Saviadodo, what do you think? Is it fair?
I wouldn't say so, because I mean, if it's the same task that needs to be executed under Lands Commission, if it's the same task that you are going to execute.
No, but does it mean the public should be charged more and government should be charged less? Is that what it means?
That's exactly what I'm saying. So once it's the same job description and it will take the same resources to execute, I think there should be some harmony in it. Unless, of course, the argument is that it's kind of a sole source. I mean, they just ask you, there's a project that Lands Commission want to execute and just want to use a number of people to execute it. Yes, but if it's outside Lands Commission and it has to do with any other job, once the job description is the same, I think there should be some level of harmonization.
So what you are saying is that at least there should be one rate.
Exactly.
Good. Okay. Saviako, I'll still come to you. You have had an in-depth knowledge about surveying over the years. And so some of the questions we can dodge, especially when it comes to costing and survey charges. You've been a member of GHIS, LSD for all this while. Can you tell us the category of surveyors, professional surveyors that we have? Is it just membership and fellow?
We have fellows. And if you are a fellow, it means that at least you've been with the institution for over 10 years. And we've got our members who are all graduates holding BSc. And then we've got our technicians who have done diploma in surveying, and they are members of the institution. But apart from this, we have
the principal surveyor.
You're talking about that.
Yes, because you see, the point is that in the scale of fees, there are various charges. I think you mentioned it, Saviadodo. Can you detail us? No, let Saviadodo tell us. Because
so as per the GHIS time charges, the designations that are recognized by this scale of fees are principal consultant, senior consultant, then there's junior consultant stroke surveying technician. So these are the 4 categories.
Now, let me go to Xavier Blair. Xavier Blair, in hydro, do you have principal consultants in that category? Do you have them? Or?
Yes, we have a similar thing. It's not like it's different from what we have in our survey. We have what we call the party chief, who is supposed to be just like a principal consultant. And then we have the chief hydrographer. We have the hydrographers under him based on years of experience, just as we have in our schedule of fees.
So in this sense, are you a senior, whatever? Where do you place yourself? If you don't want to answer that, that's fine. But if you can answer it, it's beautiful. Where would you place yourself?
You know, in hydrography, we have categories. We have category A holders, we have category B, based on your experience. For instance, those who have their
fixed that?
masters.
Who fixed
If
that?
you have your masters, you are into category A.
Oh, so it's based on academic
Academic. Yes.
qualification.
Yes. So there are people who
But
go to
professionally,
school.
professionally,
You have to belong to these organizations like international IHO. We have IMARES. There's another one that is Chartered Institute of Hydrographers. And so if you belong to them, then you need to follow their way of classifying professional members. One is still based on your number of years of experience. Just as
Saviakwa, please, is hydro captured in the scale of fees?
Yes, it is. It is.
And Savia, do you apply them?
I use them as a guide as well.
Oh, as a guide. And what about drone aerial survey? Do we have that captured in the scale of fees?
Whatever we find in the scale of fees has to do with photogrammetry as we used to know it. So like I said in my presentation, drones are evolving and the regulator is still trying to fine-tune some of these things. So that's the reason why sometimes costing for the drone.
No, you are saying two things. So the regulator or the professional body, which is which? Because we are talking about the scale of fees of the GHIS, professional body. And so are you saying that the scale of fees is being regulated by the regulator or regulated by the professional body?
When I bring in the regulators, I think it has to do with specifications and things like that. Because as we are aware, SMD takes charge of every survey in this country. They are the regulators of all the surveying. And like we have details of the various areas of survey. If you look in this document, there's not much details as far as drone survey is concerned. So we kind of tweak whatever has been put in there under photogrammetry for our purposes.
Surveyor Akwa, please, can you tell us whether in your wide knowledge, what has happened over the years when it comes to costing? Have you had experiences with undercoating, overcoating, and whatnot?
Oh, yes. Yes, there is. I remember, as I told you, I said SMD had their own schedule of fees. And I remember when we were doing sectional maps, areas which were declared by the director for land registration, and surveyors had to go and then prepare sectional maps. They were using the data survey scale of fees to pay contractors who went to field to do the work. Now, the question you just asked about
undercoating
and
over.
Yes, that was when we saw how people were undercoating and the rest. Because we were expecting that when you bring this, it should be within a certain range, the fees. But you see the person will quote so low so that you will give me the contract.
Saviadodo, can you also share that experience with us?
Yes, like I said in my presentation, if you call two surveyors, there's a piece of work that needs to be done. Let's say there's a 1,000-acre cadastral survey that needs to be done. If you ask this person to give you a quote, he'll give you a quote. The next person who gives you a quote, it is totally off.
No, but what is the margin we are looking at? The range. Do we have an idea about what the range we are looking at?
Sometimes,
should it be plus or minus a certain range?
It's normally, I've forgotten what the ranges in this thing should be, but in our case, I can tell you sometimes it's just way off.
Xavier Blebo, when you undercoat and you are find out as a professional body, GHIS, LSD, do you have any action taken against you? Or what do you think? What do you think?
I think we have the disciplinary committee that is supposed to handle some of these issues as and when they come up. But I can't guarantee or say here that I've seen such an action taken before. One, because most of the contracts that comes are private oriented. And so it's a private man who is deciding how much he's ready to spend on that particular project. Someone comes and says, well, I can do this for you at this rate. He's also into business. He wants to make more profit. And so if you think with that cost of that rate, you can do the work, he gives you the job, do it for me. Unfortunately, most of the people that are undercut end up not doing a good work. And then later they have to go around, the client have to go around looking for somebody else to do it with a complaint that, well, I've already paid
No,
so
but
much for it.
under the procurement law, you have what we call the lowest bidder. And so presumably, if I quote low and my technical proposal is good, then I should get a job. And so if you are quoting by the GHIS LSD rates and I'm quoting by SMD rates, what happens?
I think
would I be penalized like you are saying? Should DHIS come for me?
No, I think what we need to look at is the two different scenarios. Like Chairman said, the SMD quote is low compared to that of DHIS.
Yes, so so there's a project to be competed,
yes,
and you use LSD quote. I use SMD quote. Am I underquoting?
You are not. I don't think you are underquoting where you are coming from, because you are going to use state resources to execute the job, and I'm going to use my personal equipment to execute it. I need to be able to break even with whatever I'm going to do. If you are using state equipment, you are not paying for transportation.
No. I'm a private man. I'm using SMD quotes. Would you say I've underquoted?
I would say you
can you respond to that?
For the same project.
For the same project. You use GHIS quotes. I use SMD quotes. Would you say I've underquoted?
I would say no. No, because the two schedules are approved. As I said, the SMD one is approved by cabinet. So if you use it, you're not wrong. Neither if you use the GHIS one. But the difference that we're talking about here is about 5%. It isn't much. Just about 5%. Yeah.
Okay, so if it isn't much, it means that you should always fall within a certain range.
Yes.
And so we shouldn't have a very wide gap, like somebody quoting 100 cedis and somebody quoting 5,000. Good. And Xavier Dodo, you mentioned that the schedule of fees takes care of almost everything. In this digitization, do we have the schedule of fees telling us if you digitize this buildings, if you do this, if you do GIS this, if you do this, you have all the fees spelled out? Do we have that?
I wouldn't say yes. Like I said, all these are kind of evolving. These are new technologies that have come up, and I'm sure with time we should be able to fine-tune rates for some of these things.
So would you appreciate the fact that, like Xavier Akwa said, every 5 years before we review? Do you think it has to be reviewed almost every year?
Not entirely. I mean, these things take time to incubate because, like I said, the drone technology for surveying, we are all still trying to find our way around it. There has been a lot of advocacy for drones to be used even for cadastral and all. Like I said, the regulator once again is also looking at how those can be used. At least for now, I can say that as far as these people are concerned, drones are being deployed to have those things done, to give it more visual.
Good.
So
I want to add something.
Xavier Akwa wants to say something.
Yeah. As he rightly said, some people want to use drone for cadastral.
but the regulator is not ready. Now, recently, a committee was set up to look at the technical guidelines of SMD. And we've added all those things because now we are moving forward. We are not going back. We've added drones for cadastral and a whole lot of things so that we will catch up with the world. So very soon, we will cost all those things and you find them in our schedule fees.
Let's take one question, then we go onto the platform to take questions from our members. In some jurisdictions, Sylvia Blair, in some jurisdictions, the professional takes a certain percentage or he charges a certain percentage of the total cost of the project. Can't we surveyors do that, or why don't we also do that? Or you think it is not worth it, or it's not good?
What I know with some international organizations that have in-house survey teams or departments is when costing, they have a certain percentage allocated for survey services. And so I don't think it will be out of place if we try to look at that in Ghana. But then the question is, if you are going for that, at what percentage are you looking at? Will you, even before bidding for the contract, are you preview of how much the entire contract is going to cost for you to say that, well, this is my costing, and be able to justify?
No, the professional body says, anytime you engage our professional person, he takes a certain percentage of the quantum, and that is it. So, Viakwa, can you say something to that?
Quantum of what?
Of the total project.
Let's say
Who takes it?
1 or 2%.
Let's say you're taking 0.1% of the cost of the project, or 1 or 15% of the total cost of the project. We don't want to mention anybody's name.
You are suggesting that if
We don't want
can
to mention
also go
anybody's
by
name.
that
All
route.
we are saying is that we know some professionals, they take a certain percentage of the total cost of the project. And the question is, can we also do that, or why don't we do that? It will come to you, so think about it.
We've never done that before. But as things are going, we can try it and see if it will do.
The reason why these things are coming up is when you take road construction, the surveyor provides the topographical information. And then let's even assume he doesn't design the road. He goes to implement the road. He does the horizontal, the vertical alignment, all the drains, the curbs, everything. And then when everything is done, he does as built. So don't you think that he deserves a certain percentage? Please, Xavier Dodo.
Yes. You see, let me just even bring it down to a lower level. Take a property at Ajiringano. Conducting a site plan for a property in Ajiringano, let's say 100 by 100 or 80 by 100 plots in Ajiringano. And the same plot you have in the outskirts of Kaswa. Our scale of fees is saying that it should be 1,200 or 1,100 per plot. I mean, looking at the value of these two properties, there's no way they should be the same, but unfortunately, that is what it is. However, if you have tried a number of times thinking that, look, this property is in a prime area, and this person needs to pay more because if there are issues with the property, it's going to, and it's escalated, it will take me some effort to run around to make sure that I put things in order.
Well, that's good news. Now you hear it. When the area you are surveying has a high premium, then you should know what to do. Can we go out there to our colleagues listening to us on the virtual line to see the questions they have? Mr. MC, can you read the questions out? So let him help. Yeah.
So the first question, what what will account for the vast difference in the Ghana rate in the foreign services, especially when hydrographic surveys are for the same client?
Take 3 questions, then we go.
The next question. How does the scale of fees help in the accurate and consistent estimation to avoid discrepancies in the scale of fees relevant to the times?
Last one.
The third question. Is it possible for the second speaker to explain the tax component on remuneration and reimbursables?
Okay, so our first question, Blair. I think the questioner wants to know the fees for international and what? Local.
Thank you for the question. I think it all boils down to our economic activities. I do remember when I was in Bahrain, the company that I worked for, they were paying us based on the economic situations from our various countries. So then as a geomatic engineer, a boat operator from India was getting more money than a geomatic engineer.
From Ghana?
Yes. Okay. The other aspect of it is when you go outside, they also have their rate, just like Chairman said, that we have our minimum wage. So the condition prevailing outside, for instance, when you go to the Netherlands, when you go to US, they are paid based on hourly basis, or their rate is based on hours. But if you convert $1 into Ghana cedis, how much cedis are you going to get? And so those are the reasons why we have discrepancies. And if you want to charge direct, if you are working for a foreign company, there is no argument about that. They are ever ready to pay that rate. But if you are working for local companies, the first question they will ask is, I remember I presented a quote to a company and they were like, I'm not mad to pay you that much money because I can bring an expert from my country and pay him less than that and do the work for me.
Okay, thank you. We'll take the second one. It says scale of fees against accuracy. Does the scale of fees take care of accuracies involved? Is that not the questioner? The second question. And can you help us with that?
Yeah, how to hear? Can you read? So
I think basically he wants to know whether.
How does the scale of fees help in the accurate and consistent estimation?
Oh, okay. Okay. You know, the scale of fees is a guide. So you should not go off more than 5% of the schedule of fees. At times we do jobs for Ghanaians. Anytime you mention a price, they'll ask any reduction. They'll ask any reduction. And when I look at the job and I feel, okay, I can give him about 5% of my profit, I'll do so. Tell them, okay, I will give you 5%.
Is it 5% of your cost or of your
Yes,
profit?
of their cost. 5%.
Okay, the third one. Can you help us? Can you come again? The third one.
Is it possible for the second speaker to explain the tax component on remuneration and reimbursables?
Tax component. Tax component.
No. I need to take that. I have it. Yeah, I think
remunerations are taxable.
Yeah.
Because remunerations are monies paid to professionals. And as a professional, once you work, you will definitely pay taxes. Then I think he spoke about reimbursables. Reimbursables are not taxable. They are tax exempt. Because these are monies that would kind of be refunded to you in any way?
I think remuneration by GRA is consultancy, especially on projects. So I think it's 8% or 7.58%. And then when you come to the reimbursables, because you are paying tax on the equipment and the things you are buying, some of them are not taxable because you might have paid even VAT on those items you are using. And you might have paid tax prior to getting them. And so if you pay tax on them, then you are paying double tax. So it depends, but we need to know. Can we take the next three? Chairman wants to talk.
If I pay for hotel, the reimbursables, most of them you are paying for a service to enable you perform your work. So I go and pay for a hotel. I'm paying the hotel, so you cannot tax me.
You cannot, yes.
On that one. And if I hire a vehicle, it is assumed that even if I have, it is assumed that I'm hiring.
Yeah.
So I'm hiring from somebody. So the person who
yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's why you don't pay.
Good.
For reimbursement.
Good. So basically what it means is that we need to understand whatever item is involved. Can we take the next three?
One of them is a comment. He said, I hope we will have copies of the Excel sheets from the last speaker. Then the next one says, Sylvia Aqua gave a presentation on billing of one plot. How then do we relate it to larger parcels or acreages in a basis? The other question is, after recouping the cost of your equipment for the set period, will it still be relevant to charge again for cost of the equipment in subsequent projects?
Okay, thank you.
Right.
I think the SL sheet, we mentioned that we are going to charge the IT and those of us who are a little good in computer to massage it, and then we can distribute it so that everybody can have something of the sort to use. And then the second question, Saviakwa.
Yeah, it's on the, what do you call it? Charging for larger. This is also indicated in the schedule of fees. What I presented was just an example of one. So if you look at, if it is 70 acres, the cost for 70 acres is there. So if you are to break them down so that the client will understand where the bill is coming from, then you go according to what I presented. That's what it means. And then the cost of the instrument after 5-10 years, you have to replace. That doesn't mean that when you are charging, it should not be part. You know, we are growing. Maybe you started with one instrument, and 5 years time, maybe you need another 2, and then multiples of that. So I don't think you will stop charging for that.
Okay, let me
just to add something little to what he said. Just like the equipment can outlast your anticipated or expected duration of performance, in the same way, anything could happen to it to cut its life short. So we would say that they balance out.
Well, I want to add something there. Normally, when you have equipment, in your financial bookings, the equipment you acquired is indicated against your costs. And so in your tax components, you get a relief over the period. If we had any accounts person, we would explain the details. But I know that when you have an equipment as a company, you spread it out over your amortization, and then you get a relief on it. And so that is how it should go. And then I think Saviakwa, during his presentation, he mentioned that if the land is huge, You don't charge by acreage anymore, but you begin to look at it in terms
The
of
perimeter.
perimeter.
Thank you very
And then
much.
also want to add this. I hope the person is aware of what we call depreciation.
Depreciation, yeah.
Yes. So it's all to all come into it. No, when you bought the instrument, maybe it was $10,000. After 4 years, you can't say it's the same price. Yeah.
Thank you very much. I think we have an interesting discussion here. Michael, can we get somebody?
From Dr. Atina, with regard to complete the mic.
Oh, okay. Dr. Atina Wamega, we are ready for you. Unmute your mic and let's hear you. Tina. My hands were up for a long time. I think the students are tired. Yes. Cephas Fawcett, which your hands has been up. But you are a man, so please. Ask your question.
Oh, hi. I already asked my question and I've been answered by Ivy.
Person in-house.
Hello.
Would like to take it.
Hello. Yes, my question has been answered by Ivy on the Zoom app already.
Answer. Thank you. Mr. Sobiopoku want to ask a question.
Professionals and surveyors, how much percentage you put on every work? Yeah. The 1 cedi, 2 cedis. No, it should be in percentages. So what percentage we put on any job that we get? All these things. For it to become our, just like the lawyers, the architects, the contractors, and all of them. So we don't have it. What do we do about it?
Sobia Opoku want to know that how much percent we put on our, as for this one, I can do something small. How much percentage you put on our project? The thing is that most of the time, we don't even know the cost of the land we are working with. Most of the time. When it's a road work, sometimes we are always a secondary workers. The civil engineer go for the work. He has the quotes, and there are a few situations they won't give it to you. I have worked on a project where they tell me, US, it's between us. All other professionals will not see it. So, with such a question, I know it's a very difficult one. Because most of the time, because we are secondary workers, we are not privy to. So the only thing is that surveyors, like they say, we should be a bit courageous so we can step forward a little. And now we can also dictate to contractors, clients, government, that we also want to take our space. Surveyors, give us our portion and not for us to go behind some other professionals. So
second class.
Like there's sorry. So okay. What he's saying is that it's going to be a bit difficult because with the civil engineers, my brother, we have to start from somewhere. If you always sit down and say we are waiting for our turn, I don't know how I'm going to give a turn to my child to room me in my own house. One day, to take me out of the house. So I won't do it. So the civil engineer won't allow you. So you have to always find your own.
Okay, I think we will take a Chairman. You want to speak?
Chairman wants.
I
step out and give me let Christy acting chairman, or whether somebody who posts using survey, SMD,
Schedule.
and then the DHI who is somebody under quote.
You say that the person using SMD
Yes.
posting under code.
Yes,
He's
that was your question. Yes. If I am a private surveyor or a licensed surveyor, the person using SMD is under quote straight away because the SMD fees are subsidized, as Chairman himself said, because they are using government resources. They are using government vehicle, government instrument. That's why they can charge less. As a private person, I don't have that advantage. So anybody who does that is under quoting.
That is professionally.
Professionally, he's under quoting because he is not being fair to
the other colleagues.
us.
Thank you.
And then regarding the civil engineers issue, I've had an opportunity to talk to some of them, and they are saying that we are timid. We don't come up to bid because he is a civil engineer. You're a geodetic engineer. He needs your services before you can proceed. Why don't you also put in a bid? And then they will go and collect it and sublet to you and treat you as their subordinate. When you and they are all engineers and we are all belonging to the same association. So we should not say it is going to be difficult. We should be bold and go forward. And otherwise, we should not even do the work. And we should make sure, that's why I want us to have unity so that they cannot even get anybody to go and do it for them. Then they'll come back to us. Winston Ayeni told us a story where there was a project in Nigeria. He said the surveyors said they were going to charge 5,000 naira for a parcel of plot, a parcel plan in a project like LAP. The project coordinator said you give them 1,500. So Ayeni and his group decided that, okay, you go and do it yourself. We will not do it. The guy came back to beg them to take their 5,000. You see, because they were what? They were strong. And that's what we have to do. They won't do it, and they cannot do it without us. They don't have the equipment. They don't have the knowledge. So we should be bold and create money for ourselves. We are cheapening ourselves. Surveyors. Then you tell me that you're taking $30 a day. The lawyer, when you go and consult 500,
Ghana.
they take 15% of the architects take 6%. What about us? Michael rightly said, you're going to do a land and $150,000 for one plot. And you take 1,100. And they are crying that it's expensive. I mean, how can it be expensive? 1,100 cities, which is about $200. $280. What with that mind survey, you cannot identify your plot, you cannot process your plot, and you are telling me that 280 when you are prepared to pay 150,000, and the same person will pay $1,000 or more to a lawyer to just prepare what do you call it, the indenture. Without my input, the lawyer cannot even do the indenture. We folks, we have to stand up and do the right because our course calculus and Stokes theorem is not an
Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Chairman.
I think I have some questions.
Yeah, you are here, so please.
Yes, what we are saying is very right, that we should be bold. But you see, a standard has been made such that when it comes to feasibility studies, topo survey is fixed in there. So the civil engineers, I mean, when it comes to feasibility studies, topo survey is fixed in there. So they go in for the distance, and definitely
I mean, what I'm trying to say is that it has already been fixed into the feasibility stages, topo survey, this, that. So the whole thing has been sort of structured. So
Thank you.
Yes, it's because you've not made yourself important within the build-up area. They will always capture. Leave that if you like. I believe there was a time they want to write some bill. I was on the committee, and DS and QS said they want to sign site plan here in Ghana. We were three on the corner, me and Madasam and Kwame Tinelu. They said they want to sign, so we have to write that. Hey, that is another area. You understand? So if you have left it, by this time VS is signing site plan, and QS is signing site plan. Yes, site plan as cadastral plan. Do you understand? So
you say who is doing what?
In Ghana.
In Ghana here, it is in the document. Who didn't see
Which document?
I think it's the survey council bill or something.
That it was taken out.
Yes, that is what I'm telling you. That they form a committee. We were on it, and we say, "Hey, Jack, do you understand?" So that's what I'm saying. If you sleep on your right, please. We've slept on our right on that area. Just that all we need to do is to wake up.
Well,
yes, we'll
well,
just
you
have
see,
to wake up because they are charging 5-6% for architects, 7-8% for QS. As for them, they are quiet. 7-8, sometimes 9% for they are quiet.
Yeah, Mr. MC.
Yes, so please, as for that one, we all have to just take that mind off. Because maybe there's going to be another movement that is going to bring everybody on board. We have to take bold and move ourselves forward. I mean, something is on the way. Thank you.
I think you see that the challenge is that we need to get our CPD more organized, educate ourselves, get our actors right, and then be able to understand the situation where we find ourselves. Because most of us go on projects even without authorization, even without contracts, let alone terms of payment. And so the surveyor goes on the job, on a project, which has been secured by a civil engineer, architect, or whoever it is. He has no terms of reference. He doesn't call for terms of reference. He doesn't call for terms of payment. And then he gets himself messed up. But as it is bent, but it's not broken. We need to be educating ourselves with some of these things so that actors will be very critical in our daily undertaking. And that is it. Now, let's take the last question. Do you charge for risk? I'll start with you, Xavier Blebo. Do you charge for risk?
Yes, it's
because
inherent.
you go on a high seat. Do you charge for risk?
Yes. If you look at my presentation, I did mention that the area where you are working, all those are elements of the costing. So you might not put it there as a risk, but it is inbuilt in the costing. Like I said,
you don't make it categorically clear.
Risk,
no. Okay. Xavier,
and I think some jurisdiction, what they do is after the costing, then you put in about 10% of your overall cost as risk cost per risk.
Xavier, when you put up your detailed cost for a plot, I didn't see risk.
Yes. Cadastral surveying. I think risk will come in only when you are working in the forest where you don't know.
Langard,
the friends
Langard,
are going to
it's town. You have Langard. It's risk.
So we've not worked out any risk factor in the fees. We have not done so.
But don't you think we should have that?
Oh, yeah.
Xavier Dodo, what do you think? Risk.
So if we have to talk about risk, then it has to be area specific. If you are working, even you can be working in.
No, you remember Geotech, they lost their drone. They flew a drone. I think they had some wind which they did not envisage, and the drone got lost. They couldn't locate it till date. They've not located it. So I saw Xavier Jaba here. Okay. So risk.
Risk to equipment and personnel.
Sure.
I was going to say that if you are working in a safe place, like in this country now, I don't think there's any place you can call safe. Everywhere is under siege. When you think you are safe, out of the blue, people just marshal their forces on you. So maybe I think it is something we need to look at. It's very important.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I think we are done with our panel discussion, and our friends out there, I don't think they have any questions either. So I'll hand over to Mr. MC, and then we can close the panelists. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Maybe I have some.
You have a question?
For the panelists, all of them. So,
okay.
It looks like people have this perception that as for surveyors, it's a no-go. I mean, we can't do anything. When the civil engineer takes the job, we have to just follow them. My question is that, can't we sit down and do some arrangements as surveyors for us to be able to be that? Because it looks like individually we can't be that bold. But can't we as a group, let's say LSD, come out with some modalities that we can now say, let's push something forward and take our space? Because I just heard that they are doing some guidelines. Is it
technical guidelines?
Yeah, is it the technical guidelines? Yes. The one that SMB is doing.
Technical guidelines.
As
Mr. MC.
Yes.
Mr. MC, do you want me to answer you? Do you want me to answer you?
No,
it is active. No. Yes, but you see, it is active. Let me tell you, it is purely active. I was in a project, and I've done the first phase of the project, and the project leader mentioned that he's been here in the 60s, and that he ever knew a surveyor called Apeu. I'll mention it. He said he ever knew a surveyor called Apeu, and I said I know him. I called Mr. Akwa. Mr. Akwa gave me Apeu's number. I gave it to this man. Do you know when Apeu went to him, they had a discussion. They never called me again. I'll mention it. He went to him. They had a discussion. Then all I heard was that Apeu is now doing the work. He and the CEDU. I'll say it. I'm not afraid because it was really sad, but I did not say anything. It is active. You see, Chairman said, Nigeria, it happened. Their land administration, when they all agreed that we won't bar 2,000 naira, it is 5,000, take it or leave it. What happened, Chairman? They succeeded. It is active. It is active. And so please, well, the question you asked is very simple.
Yes. You see, for the Nigerian case, I have something small I know there. As for the Nigerian Association, is it Nigerian Association of Surveyors? They are powerful. They are strong. They move. No, you see, you can't do survey without them. You can't even go to Nigeria as a Chinese and go and work without consulting. So we don't have it here. So that one is not ethics. That one is
professionalism. It's professionalism.
No. It is our professional arrangement which has broken. Our professional arrangement is not working. We are not accepting ourselves. Exactly, because we are not there. But then if we can put in certain rules, and we get leadership to really control that. Look, if you are not part of this association, you can't get work. You get if you can't do this, you can't. But then if you follow the Nigerian way and you feel Nigeria has built that empire already. We don't have any survey empire. Personally, that's the way I think. We don't have a survey empire here. And we need to form one. And we can't form one by we sitting as LSD or whatever, or no. But we can form it by getting ourselves close to government and try to change certain things at the long end. Okay, because they are doing some guidelines. So if we are able to put certain things in there, then when we are working, we can refer to law. So because if you say I should go and catch quacks, always when I hear quacks, me allow president no quacks. Can you catch quacks? What power do you have? Because there's no legal power for you to go and catch somebody is doing something against the master. You don't have it. Because there's nothing in the law that can let you go and arrest the person.
Won't finish.
Do you understand? So
MC,
that is where, yes, sir, boss.
MC, don't prolong this.
Yes, sir, boss.
The simple thing we need to do is to be up and doing as professionals. So if we adhere to our professional principles and
without law,
no, you see, the law should be there. But you see, if you come to me and bring a project, and I know that Blabo is doing this project, and you are trying to dribble, and I Nicodemously take the job, what happens?
That's another area. We want to
legislation.
Legislation. No, we want to make sure that if one voice is there, okay, if one voice speaks, nobody can say otherwise. That's all we want. Because if we say, oh, you can do your survey, like now, I can charge any amount. So sometimes I laugh when they say survey bill prices. What? No. But then if a quantity surveyor goes, he knows that it's taking between 7 and 9%. This is simple. Do you understand? And you go anywhere you go, it's the same thing. The man will reject it if you don't give him that amount.
Okay.
You get it?
Why would he reject it?
Because they have established themselves, because they have even their name on the billboard of contracts. Do you have your name there? Yes. You are talking, do you have your name on the billboard of contracts?
Is it stipulated in law?
The man has put himself there. So why do you put yourself there? That's my question. It's not stipulated in law.
So I think that is where he's driving to. That we should push for regulation to make sure that if anything happens, there's a law that you can say that according to this, you cannot. I think that's where he's
Well,
going.
I think that is fine.
Yes.
So it's good. I think
right the book is open. I'm just telling the whole surveyors that the book is still open at SFD. So if you can come together and see if you can go and add something to it, or go read through and take something out, or there's something that is happening that you know they will put there, please, the book is open. So as LSD, as surveyors, please let's go there and maybe form some committees and go and add something to it that will be of benefit to us. Because right now, last commission can decide that hey, guy, surveyors sit here. Who will do any? Anyone? They finish with us. They finish with us.
Can you tell us a little bit more about the book?
The book.
You just said the book.
It's the technical guidelines they are doing. I think that is a supplementary law to the Act 2020 1036.
No.
I don't know what it is.
I think that's the technical guidelines.
That's the technical guidelines.
It's a legislation. There's something.
Are you talking about the Survey Council bill?
Okay. Chairman said he will come and close on that. I think this.
Okay. I think
LI that is there, so that we need to
Survey Council bill.
LSD can come together and form something and take it.
I think we have finished our. We'll hand
So
over to
on that note.
Yes.
On that note,
let's close the
CPD is grateful for honoring our invitation, both in-house and virtual. Oh, okay. Okay, let's. My chairman's name is up. Hello. Hello. Prezo, you can speak now. Unmute your mic and speak. Senior Kwame Tinedu.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Hello.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Senior Kwame Tinedu.
Yes, I'm speaking.
You can speak now.
Hello. I think my line is not good.
Hello?
My line is bad.
Yes.
should
Hello,
unmute.
your mic is mute. Senior, unmute your mic.
I have unmuted my. Yes. Can you hear me? Okay, congratulations. We'll talk again. Bye.
Hello. I think congratulations us for a very nice presentation. We are also grateful as CPD for honoring our invitation, both in-house and virtual. And we assure you, you are going to get all these presentations that was read to us. And in addition, you are going to get a hybrid of all the four. We have a committee in place that is going to take care of that for us. So on that note, we bring this we bring this to an end with a remarks from the chairman of the occasion, Surveyor Samuel Labida.
Thank you very much. And as we have all heard, I was expecting that this CPD was going to be about how we were going to prepare our bills. But what I found out was it's like a rehashing of what is already existing. Because in Surveyor Blebo's presentation, he said a geodetic engineer will take 180 cedis a day. And when I calculated, it was $30 a day. So are we worth $30 a day? Is that what we are saying? That you, an engineer, you are worth $30 a day. What was that per hour? No. Is it here? Okay, if it's per hour, then maybe I'm okay. So the scale of fees, the professional Association of Professional Bodies, the remuneration is from that place. It was picked, which was given by government. But we have to now understand that if we don't change the nomenclature, people are saying that, oh, surveyors. So if you are a surveyor and there's a building project or there's a road construction project, they will take the civil engineer. But okay, what about if I call myself survey engineer or a geomatic engineer, geodetic engineer? I should also be on the board because we are all engineers. There are no more engineers than me. So topographic survey is not their job. Why should they take it and give it to me? So we should be able to also write to the appropriate quarters that we are equal to them and we should also have our portion. All things regarding survey, topographic survey, engineering survey should be given to surveyors to bid, but it should be part of what the civil engineering package. They should separate it for us so that we also go and bid properly. And if we are bidding, that's why I say I've had situations because I've been doing some of these things for a long time. And because we don't have a uniform rate, we create, we become laughing stock. One person costs $1 million, one person costs 300 or 400. And the people look at us and they see we are not serious. The difference should only be about 5% maximum, so that we are all taking from the same source. They will use your technical strength to evaluate you because it's quality cost quality cost what base thing. So they will look at your quality and give you scores, but the financials should almost be the same, and your strength should come in your technical proposal. So let us come, CPD come out with cost, a new cost thing. Somebody asked a question. Somebody has given me 100,000. I'm giving an example. Mr. Akwa, somebody has given me 100,000 acres to survey. What do I do? The scale of fees only goes to 70 acres. I have 100,000, I have 20,000, I have 10,000 acres, 1,000 acres. Am I going to use 8,000 per kilometer? Or I can say that if one plot is 1,100, let's assume we agree to that. Then as it goes, I can now go maybe up to 20 cedis per plot or per acre, and then multiply by the number of acres. It's something like that agreeable. Why is it not agreeable? So those are the things, challenges for us, which we should look at, because the same effort to walk that distance, if it is 100, I remember we did some job for 400 kilometers. And so how do you charge for that? It ended up being about some thousands of acres. Let us look at a basic figure that everybody can use. And let us present ourselves as professional engineers, geomatic engineers, because that's the course I did is not surveying. it's geodetic engineering. And that's why I also went to the institution of engineering. Let us present ourselves as engineers and be confident, take engineering job, and also take surveying, because we have the advantage of two, we can belong to two professions. Let us, when it comes to engineering job, let us present ourselves as engineers when it comes to engineering job. And then let us present ourselves as surveyors when it comes to surveying job. My problem with our profession is that we are only interested in the four corner. And because of this four corner, we have left the bigger things for people to do and take it and give it to us. And we have allowed the quacks to, we are always concerned with the four corner, and we are not pushing, because I'll get my 5 pros a week, maybe get 5,000, 20,000 a month. I'm a rich man, so I don't care. So I don't care. But that is not enough, because the bigger monies are there, and foreigners are taking the bigger monies. They are big projects, big projects. But we are there and we are not seeing it, and foreigners are taking it. So please, surveyors, I'm pleading, let us upgrade ourselves and know that we are engineers as well as surveyors. So when it comes to engineering jobs, let us go and bid as engineers and take the job on our own, on our own strength. And then when it comes to surveying, let us also take on our own strength. Lastly, the land bill, the Land Act. I've been told that they are preparing the LIs, the legislative instruments. So they want us to bring an input for them to finalize it. So I'm throwing it to all LSD people that they are doing the LI, the legislation instrument to do the act. Please send your inputs to the CPD so that we can give it to the Lands Commission to put it into the legislation so that it can guide us. Like BB said, in Nigeria, there's a legislation. No foreigner can come and do survey. But here, anybody, you can see Chinese, everybody doing some Nigerian. So let's put it in the LI. And let's put it in the LI that no Makola woman can go and buy GPS, surveying GPS for somebody to do. Let's put it in the legislation that before somebody can do survey, you should have ABCD. If it's not, it's criminal. Let's write something to protect ourselves, please. And I am pleading that let us be up and doing, and I can assure you that there's so much money in surveying. Because me, at the engineering center, the engineers told me, hey, they all know that we are rich. but we are sitting on good. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think we've come to the end of today's section of our CPD, and we are grateful for the big men that came and actually graced this occasion. With us is Surveyor Chairman J.C. Akwa, who is the chairman of the LSD of GHIS. And we also have our chairman of the occasion, who is also one of us, Surveyor Samuel Abidakun, who is also the president of Ghana Licensed Surveyors Association of Ghana. Licensed Surveyors Association of Ghana, LISAG, of course. So we are most grateful you are here with us. And we have another senior colleague here, Surveyor LISAG, joining us in-house. And I think we have a host of senior surveyors, over 200 people. But then I saw one name, Surveyor Senior Kwame Tinedu, who also, yes, Surveyor Jones was also on, and a host of, we can't mention all, but we are most grateful that you all, with all your busy schedules, you find time to join us for this special occasion. We are most grateful. Thank you, and God bless you all. And we hope that in our next CPD, you are going to come in your numbers as you did. Without much ado, we started with God, and we must end with God. Sorry? We must end with God. So after the anthem, we'll call upon somebody to pray with us. So let the anthem come first. Upstanding, wherever you are, whether here or out,
institution of excellence that grows, where the development of all levels. Every heart lets us wait to sustain the image of the sovereign imperatives, to be recognized as a professional institution of excellence that grows, where the development of all levels. Integrity, sustainability, excellence, leadership, respect for profession. Let us come together to the face of the self-respect, integrity,
call upon Surveyor Kingsley Boati to close us.
My God and Father, we thank you in Jesus' name for this evening, for bringing us together to deliberate on issues concerning Lent. Whatever we have been able to say goes a long way to help us in our profession. This we ask in Jesus' name. Amen.